Jug McSpaden was the first player ever to break 60, shooting a 59 in 1939. A winner of 17 tour events in his 19-year career, he finished second 18 times in just the 2-year period of 1944 and 45. Jug McSpaden tonight on Golf Talk Live. Welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm Peter Kessler. Harold Jug McSpaden began his pro career in the late 1920s when Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen ruled the game. He was there when Sam Snead and Ben Hogan were raw rookies seeking a living and fame on the pro circuit. He was there to witness and participate in the greatest win streak in history. And during all this time, he was making his mark as a consistent long-term winner in one of golf's golden periods of growth and greatness. Jug McSpaden's pro career spanned the age of Bobby Jones through the reign of Byron Nelson. He beat some of the greatest names in the game's history, names like Walter Hagen, Light Horse Harry Cooper, Byron Nelson, Ben Hogan, and Sam Snead. McSpaden and Byron Nelson were known as the Gold Dust Twins because between them they won everything in sight in the early and mid-1940s. During World War II, they played exhibition matches to raise money in war bond sales to do their share to help the war effort. He played in the first Masters tournament in 1934, beat the best of his time, and left a mark of consistency in world-class golf that remains indelible today. Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Thank you, Peter.
It's a great, great pleasure.
Thank you.
How did you get the nickname Jug? Where did that come from?
I'm sorry you asked, because I don't know. I got him when I was about 3 years old, I think. I just grew up with it.
Now, you were belated happy birthday, by the way.
Right.
The thing about your birthday that makes me nervous is it's starting to remind me of some of my golf scores.
Well, not too bad if you're a 100 shooter.
Thinking about the year you were born, 1908, that was the year the first golf magazine was put together, American Golfer by Walter Travis. Babe Ruth was 13 years old. Ty Cobb was in his prime, and no American had yet won the U.S. Open. Baseball was really the big game. What was it that you followed as a kid? Was it baseball?
And well, I started off baseball, but actually the golf course wasn't very far from my home, and I wound up being a caddy. And then I finally actually started working in the pro shop and putting clubs. That's when they finally came out with steel shafts. We used to have wood shafts, and I helped put some shafts in heads, and we'd finish them and put grips on them, and that's how the thing started. It really wasn't. It was made in different pro shops, actually, rather than in manufacturers like they do today. They turn them out by the thousands.
Whose style did you choose, and who influenced you as a golfer in terms of developing your method of play early on?
Well, truthfully, no one. I did it the hard way, I guess, and it took me, I'd play well, and then I wouldn't play well, and I didn't. I think one of the first things I had to start with was a grip, and I changed my grip once from an overlapping grip to a regular grip, and that started me on the right way. But finally, after going to California 4 times, coming home broke, I finally went to a golf club that wanted me to practice. And I practiced 6 hours a day for 3 solid months. And when I got through it at that time, I could play with anybody. In fact, I won 6 tournaments in a row, really.
When was that?
In 33, I won the Iowa Open by 14 strokes, and the Kansas City Open by 14 strokes, and the Oklahoma Open by 3. And then I finally went to California and played with what I call the big boys: Craig Wood, Goldall, Horton Smith, and that bunch, and Runyan and the rest of them. And I won it by 5. And then I won the next week. I beat Hagen one stroke to win the tournament. And the following week, I won the San Francisco Match Play tournament.
Now, when you first saw Hagen play, that would have been the PGA Championship of 1927, your first PGA, right? And Walter's 5th win.
Right. I played in 1927 at Hillcrest and watched him beat Ternisa.
Now, that was an incredible year, and Babe Ruth hit his 60 home runs that year, and the Ryder Cup began that year. Lindbergh's flight across the Atlantic. Was that an exciting time, as it seems to us today?
I was so poor, I was trying to learn how to play. That's the only way I can make a living.
Now, Hagen is a fellow that you ended up beating, I think, at the Pasadena Open in 1935, which was really towards the end of his competitive career. What do you remember about beating him at that time?
Well, I beat him not only there, but in fact, I want you to know one thing. This man was a great, great player, because maybe I was lucky to win the tournament because I made a 2 at the last hole, the 72nd hole, which was a par 3. But I want you to know one thing. He shot the last 27 holes in the rain and sleet, colder than you can believe, and he shot 97 strokes in 27 holes. That is great playing in good conditions. Now, and I barely beat him by 1 stroke.
Now, Hagen was a fellow that, they said used to stay up until 6 a.m. and then have breakfast served to him outside of his Daimler limousine in front of the clubhouse, and then go to the first tee and play. Any truth to that?
A little bit. I don't think he ever drank as much as they think he did or said he did. The only thing I ever saw him that I thought was really peculiar, I was playing in Catalina and on the island over there, and he was supposed to play off with Farrell and Leo Deagle, and they were the hot shots in those days. In the meantime, they had waited for him for an hour, and finally they said, well, let's forget him. And so they started down the first hole, and we're about to the second tee, and here comes Hagen with a top hat and tails and all the rest of it, dressed up to go to a big party, and he had just flown over in a biplane.
Well, I guess the party had been the night before, right?
That's correct.
And this was him.
He never closed it.
Now, but before that time in the early 30s, when Jones retired in 1930, how big, and you had been a pro 3 years, how big was the reception behind his Grand Slam in 1930?
Oh, I think he boosted the game of golf tremendously. And then, of course, about that time, or not far after that, they made the movie of all Jones's golf swing and pictures, and it ran in serials, in fact. And I'd go get in line with everybody else, probably 50 or 100 feet deep, just to see how he'd made a swing. And at that time, I started studying the swing, and he didn't have the best grip in the world, but he must have had a great touch and a great feel.
What was him that set him apart, even from Hagen, who Hagen and Sarazen never won a major championship that Jones entered after 1923? What put him in a class above them?
Oh, I think that he maneuvered around the golf course. He did a better job of playing the course itself, because he could hit a lot of fine shots and could hit the ball a long way. He could move it, and that's very important. It's like maybe you watched the big tournament yesterday at the PGA.
You bet.
The key guys could really move it, and it comes back to the same old story. Sometimes the men didn't win the tournament; somebody else lost it. I personally would say to you that the fellow that lost it was
Ernie Els.
Ernie Els, and not the other fellows.
What do you think was wrong with Ernie's game yesterday? You've watched him play.
Well, he got the hook on that ball, and then all of a sudden he was trying to correct it. And it's a fatal thing to get a hook. And in fact, I used to hook the ball so bad when I was young that I couldn't hardly finish in the money at all. And the other great players, and all good players start off hooking the ball because it goes farther. And in the meantime, Hogan was a great hooker. And there's been 10 or 20 statements on how Hogan stopped his hook. Well, personally, he stopped it by changing his grip. and he put it in the palm of his hand instead of the fingers of his hand, and then he pushed that thumb down the shaft, and that immediately got rid of the hook. All he had to do was practice, and he did lots of that. He deserved everything he got.
That's the first time that we have heard the secret of Hogan's game. Don't go away. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Jug McSpaden, more Golf Talk Live, 1-800-842-9987. When steel-shafted clubs replaced hickory in the early 30s, Jug McSpaden was one of its more successful practitioners. He won 11 years out of 13 from 1933 to 1945. His consistency at the game's highest level was evidenced by 17 wins, 71 top 3 finishes, and 144 top 10s. When he became the first player to ever break 60, he did so in the company of Hogan, Nelson, and Paul Runyan, and he did it with nines of 29 and 30. In 1944, when McSpaden won 6 times, he was 69 under par in his first 10 tournaments. Welcome back to Golf Talk Live. If you'd like to talk with Jug McSpaden, our number's 1-800-842-9987. I had read over the years that the whole business of practicing was something that Ben Hogan invented, but you've dispelled that just a few moments ago when you told us how hard you worked on your game. Was that something all the guys did, or just a few of you? Actually, this business of hitting practice shots.
Only a few people started it, but they found out that that's the way to be. Actually, what you're trying to do, golf is a very difficult game, much harder than it looks. And in the meantime, all you're trying to do is the same thing over and over and over again. And so the main thing is to learn to hit the ball where you're looking, or make the ball do what you want it to do. That's the name of the game, is to make the ball do what you want it to do. And so you can hit it low or high or hook it or slice it or whatever you want to do. And in fact, this game could be the most crooked game in the world, because a good player could start it down the middle of the fairway and started for the middle of the green, and have had a big slice on it, it hits and goes off in the sand trap. Well, as far as I know, thank God, no one's ever done that yet, but it could be. And the point is, it's because he can make the ball do what he wants it to do, and he only can do that through practice. So he does it over and over and over. And a sports writer many years ago used to say, well, McSpaden or Hogan or Nelson or Snead, he's getting to be a machine, it's too mechanical. Well, that's the name of the game. Do it twice the same way.
They used to say about Jones, they wound up the mechanical man and sent him clicking around the golf course yesterday.
And that's what he was trying to do. All he was doing was what he tried to do.
What was, in the early 30s, as you started to win on the pro circuit, the effects of the depression that you could see as you would travel around the country and play?
Well, I've seen that even later. I've seen places around Kansas City and that I realized things were kind of tough. And still I'd go someplace to play in a golf tournament, let's say in Florida, and I couldn't believe there was maybe French-Canadian money down there or what have you, and they had built these magnificent homes, 3 stories and $3 million and 10 feet apart. I couldn't believe it. Every time I've seen a beautiful home is sitting out all by itself in 1 to 10 acres. But I've seen this, and I saw it in Canada just a few weeks ago. It's fantastic. But where they got all the money, I don't know. It must be something wrong with me.
I doubt it. You left the tour early and never had a tough day again.
No. Go ahead.
Of Nelson, Snead, and Hogan, the first guy that came out on tour would have been Hogan. What were your impressions of the young Ben Hogan and his game at that time?
Well, Hogan, I'm not so sure was the first one. Nelson was there, I believe. Hogan came out and then went back. He couldn't make enough money to make a living. But the point was that Nelson came out. I first met him in 1933. A great guy, and a great credit to the game. And I will say one thing. I played with this man as a partner for years, 13, 14 years. We never had a quarrel or wrong crossword in all that time. And I was playing 42 weeks a year with him, of which at least 2 or 3 of the days would be with him personally.
What kind of a friend was he to you, Jug?
We were, I'd say, very close friends. Very close friends. I had a great deal of respect for him. In other words, he was what I call an honest player. He didn't take unfair advantage of the rules like some of them do today. They're lawyers, you know, they read the rule books and they take advantage of it. Now, they're not cheating really, but they're coming awful close. I've always said the USJ should put right in front of all the rules, don't take unfair advantage.
Well, isn't that the premise of the game, to play the
It's
ball as you
supposed to
find
be,
it?
but the game's not quite, doesn't always happen that way.
We're going to go ahead and let some of our viewers talk to you. We're going to take our first call from Jason in Texas. Hello, Jason.
Jug,
Yes,
how are you doing?
fine.
I was a member in the Legends of Golf. I was your caddy.
Oh, great.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Well, my buddy called me and told me you were going to be on Golf Channel. I'm still up at work, but it's a pleasure to hear your voice again.
That's fine. We were a good caddy and we did pretty well.
I think, what'd we get, third? We broke your age every single day we were out there.
Well, the point is that Palmer says I'm the only player in the world that can shoot 10 under his age most of the time he plays.
Well, you still playing that yellow pinnacle?
I am.
Well, Well, I wish you'd come down to Austin. I wish they hadn't moved the Legends. It's not the same without those guys coming through here.
Well, it's quite a golf course and beautiful condition and real fine place.
What are you shooting these days, Jug?
Oh, from 73 or 4 to 81 or 2.
Bill from Tennessee. Thank you for calling us.
Hi, Judd. How are you this evening?
I'm fine.
One thing I would like to ask is, especially growing up with my father and him telling me stories about golf back in the old days and stuff, what is the thing that you miss that the game doesn't have today that had back when you were a pro? Like the caddy programs and all that stuff.
Well, they don't have caddy programs anymore to speak of. In fact, the best caddy program I know of is the one at Hillcrest in Los Angeles. And what they do, the caddy goes out with the players, and he has to put down the honest score that each player makes, so that when he gets through, he has what I would say call an honest handicap. And then when they play out there for $1 or $2 or more, they have to play to their handicap, and that keeps the game pretty honest. You know, there's an awful lot of, I might say to change that and put it this way, there's a little thief in everybody, and everybody wants a little handicap, a little 1 or 2 strokes more than he deserves, and that's the way the game's played.
Reminds me of a discussion you have on the first tee, and you'll ask someone what his handicap is, and instead of him giving you just the number, you get an explanation or a description or a whole history, right?
Right. And he's asking for a little advantage right there.
Absolutely. We're going to be right back with Jug McSpaden. If you want to chat with us, number is 1-800-842-9987. From March through August of 1945, Byron Nelson engineered the greatest victory streak in golf history, winning 11 consecutive tournaments. Jug McSpaden and Nelson teamed to start the streak by winning the Miami 4-ball. McSpaden remembers golf's greatest streak this way: "I never played better, but to be honest, he was more interested in winning than I was. He was just tuned to a little higher level in 45. You know, Jug, people think that it was just the two of you playing the tour that year, but Hogan won several times, Snead won several times. What was it about Byron's game that put him on a level so superior to everybody that year?
Well, I think he was trying to buy a ranch, and he was really working at it. He was like digging the ditch. Every time he cut off his stroke, he helped get the ranch. But he had more concentrated on I was trying to win the tournament or make some more money, let's put it that way, because they paid for how you finished. And in fact, one of the best answers I could give you on winning is that or trying to make some money and playing golf is forget about making the money, just try to win. If you win, you're going to get paid.
You bet.
So that's the name of the game. But in the meantime, he was really concentrating and worked awfully hard, and finally he was catching up with him. I think he got to the point where he'd almost like to lose and get out.
So you saw the pressure building week to week as the streak went on.
Right.
Let's go ahead and see what our friend George from California has. Hello, George.
Hi, Peter. Just want to say one thing real quick. If I had 1 hour of watching your program and or live golf, I'll take your program, my friend. Jug.
Can I'll be sending you the adoption papers right after the show.
That's all right. You can send me the $5 too. Jug, question I have for you. The LA Open, the PGA tournament at Riviera. I walked for 2 days around the course. I've been at every LA Open there for the last 20 years since they left Rancho. And the reason I think that the golf course is being eaten alive besides the greens is that it was designed as a golf course for hickory shafts and the old steel shaft that was painted to look like wood. With the new modern technological equipment that we have, it's just too short. It cannot handle these incredible, big, huge hitters that we have today. Your opinion, sir?
Great question, George. Go ahead, Jug.
I think you're right. In fact, if you look back at what you saw in the last few days, you saw those boys hitting iron shots to the first green, which is a par 5. And you see a fellow like Els reaching almost every par 5 out there, and some of them 540 or 560 yards. In the old days, the ball just didn't. In fact, in the old days, let's go back. 82 compression was the highest ball made, the highest compression. A Spalding Dot or a Titleist or a Dunlop, 82 compression was what it was. Now today you can get 190 compression, 100 compression, and the hot shot pros can get 110 if they want them. In other words, how hard can you hit it? And with the fiberglass shafts and the different metal heads and the different lofts and the different weights and the different lengths, they're hitting the ball 275 every time they hit it. Well, now I'll be honest enough to admit that back in the days when I was playing my best, let's say, they put me out with Thompson and Snead, and there was a driving contest. If you didn't hit it 300 yards, you shot first.
We're going to be right back with more Jug McSpaden. Our number's 1-800-842-9987.